मन्नौ शरण्याकरौ नानाशास्त्रविचारणैकनिपुणं सद्धर्म संस्थापकौ लोकानां हितकारिणौ त्रिभुवने मन्नौ शरण्याकरौ राधा कृष्ण पदारविन्द भजनानंदेन मत्वालिकौ वंदे रूप सनातनौ रघुजुगौ श्रीजीव गोपालकौ कृष्ण कीर्तन गान नर्तन परौ प्रेमामृतं वनिधि श्री चैतन्य कृपाभरौ भुवि भुव भरावहन्तारकौ वन्दे रूप सनातनौ रघुजुगौ श्रीजीव गोपालकौ जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी यशोदानंदन ब्रजजन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रजजन रंजन यमुना तीर बनचारी वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रजजन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रजजन रंजन यमुना तीर बनचारी यमुना तीर बनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी
क्या बना दिया है ये क्या
जय हो परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य सत्कर्म स्मारक धाम सरस्वती गोस्वामी भगवान की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय रामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु शिवाचार्य गौर भक्ति जय श्री राधा कृष्ण भोग गोपनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिधर की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय नवदीप धाम की जाए, गंगा माई की जाए, जमुना माई की जाए, द्वारका धाम की जाए, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जाए, और ग्लोरी टू दैट, और ग्लोरी टू दैट। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Gurudev, all glories to the Samul Vaishnava devotees, and all glories to His Grace Srivas Das Vanacari.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, of course, Prabhuji needs no introduction. He is our mentor, our guru, and our leader, especially this particular platform. Is one of the main brains behind this platform. So he needs no introduction. So Prabhuji, you're welcome to your own home.
Hare Krishna.
And we may put the verse on the screen and then you take it over from here, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
So can we start?
Yes, please.
Okay. Narayana namaskritya narachaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat nashtapraya sabhadresu nityam bhagavatam sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhakti bhavati naistiki. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. So we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, verse 39. Chapter 9 is entitled Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. Antaritendriyatayaha haraye vihitanjalihi sarva bhutamayo vishwam sasarjedam sapuravat antaritendriyatayaha haraye vihitanjalihi sarva bhutamayo vishwam sasarjedam sapuravat antaritendriyatayaha haraye vihitanjalihi sarva bhutatmayo vishwam sarsajedam sapuravat. Word for word translation. Antarihita, on the disappearance. Indriya artaya, onto the personality of Godhead, the object of all senses. Haraye, unto the Lord. Vihita Anjali, enfolded hands. Sarvabhutaha, all living entities. Mayaha, full of. Vishwam, the universe. Sarsajaha, created. Edam, this. Saha, he, Brahmaji. Pruvavat, exactly like before. Translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, like A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. On the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who is the object of transcendental enjoyment for the senses of devotees. Brahma, with folded hands, began to recreate the universe, full with living entities as it was previously. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is the object for fulfilling the senses of all living entities. Illusioned by the glaring reflection of the external energy, the living entities worship the senses instead of engaging them properly in fulfilling the desires of the Supreme. The Hari Bhakti Sundadaya 13.2 says, Akshno phalam tradrisha darshanam hi, tano phalam tradrisha gatra sangha, jiva phalam tradisa kritanam hi, sudrulabha bhagavata hi lokhe. O devotee of the Lord, the purpose of the visual sense is fulfilled simply by seeing you, and to touch your body is the fulfillment of bodily touch. The tongue is meant for glorifying your qualities, because in this world, a pure devotee of the Lord is very difficult to find. Originally, the senses of the living entity were awarded for this purpose, namely to engage them in the transcendental loving service of the Lord or that of his devotees. But the conditioned souls, illusioned by material energy, became captivated by sense enjoyment. Therefore, the whole process of God consciousness is meant to rectify the conditional activities of the senses and to re-engage them in the direct service of the Lord. Now, Brahma does engage his senses in the Lord by recreating the conditioned living entities to act in the recreated universe. This material universe is thus created and annihilated by the will of the Lord. It is created to give the conditioned soul a chance to act, to return home, back to Godhead. And servants like Brahmaji, Naradaji, Vyasaji, and their company become busy with the same purpose of the Lord, to reclaim the conditioned souls from the field of sense gratification and return them to the normal stage of engaging the senses in service of the Lord. Instead of doing so, i.e., converting the actions of the senses, the impersonalists began to make the conditioned souls senseless, and the Lord also senseless. There is improper treatment for the conditioned souls. The disease condition of the senses may be treated by curing the defect, but not uprooting the senses altogether. When there is some disease in the eyes may be cured to see properly. Plucking out the eyes is no treatment. Similarly, the whole material disease is based on the process of sense gratification, and liberation from the disease condition is re-engagement of the senses to see the beauty of the Lord, hear his glories, and act on his account. Thus, Brahmaji created the universal activities again. Om Gyana Timiridasya Gyanan Gyanashalakaya Chakshuramalitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunastam Vitam Tam Sanjivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Iti Namini Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Ashri Tatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tetariti Namini Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvise Sashunyavadi Pasachade Satarini Vanchakalpatarvyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Ivacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gauratize Namaha Nityanado Vatutendo Vasuda Pranavalabhaha Janaviri Jivita Patir Krishna Prema Prabhu Padmavati Sutta Srimam Sachirananda Purvajaha Bhavum Mata Jagat Rakta Rakta Gaura Kile Varaha Advetam Harina Dveta Racharyam Bhakti Shamshanat Bhaktavataram Itam Sham Advaita Acharya Shraye Panchatattvamakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabhaya Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajagraye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagaritaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopita Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Saratau Pango Mama Madirgatima Sarvaswa Padam Bhujo Radha Mandana Mohano Divyat Vindaranya Kalpadrumada Srimad Radhagara Simhastanastau Srila Govinda Devo Christian Libisevya Manosmarami Shrimam Rasarasaram Vivam Sivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswanai Gopi Gopinata Sriyestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Bindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Devi Krishnamai Prokta Radhika Paradevata Sarvam Lakshmi Mai Sarvam Kanti Samohini Paraha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. On the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who on the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who is the object of transcendental enjoyment for the senses of devotees, Brahma, with folded hands, began to recreate the universe full with living entities as it was previously. Ukam karote vachalam pangum lagayete grim, yat kripatamahan vande, Shri Guru Dina Taranam, Paramanam Madhavam, Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Akanda Mandalakaram, Vyapta Yena Characharam, Tatpadam Dashitam Yena, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. So everyone is welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. And before we proceed to say a few words about this verse, we seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis who are assembled here so that we can properly represent Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are following the narrations from the Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 9, describing the austerities performed by Brahma, and by his devotional austerities, the Lord revealed himself to
Prabhuji, can you please unmute Srivas? Prabhuji, please. Thank you.
So I was saying that we are following the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, and we have heard how Brahma performed devotional austerities to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appeared before him, revealed himself before him, gave him the Srimad Bhagavatam in the form of the Chatusloki, and even shook hands with Brahma to encourage him in his service of recreation. So then the Lord disappeared. So this verse is describing what happens after the Lord had disappeared. So Shukadeva Goswami has mentioned that on the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who is the object of transcendental enjoyment for the senses of devotees, Brahma, with folded hands, began to recreate the universe full with living entities as it was previously. So, two important things are raised here or mentioned here. That the Lord is the object of transcendental enjoyment for the senses of the devotees. And then Brahma began to recreate the universe full with living entities as it was previously. So, Srila Prabhupada, in his commentary to this verse, has mentioned a number of points, but I don't know whether time will allow us to discuss all the points that Srila Prabhupada has raised. But the first point Srila Prabhupada raised was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is the object for fulfilling the senses of all living entities. And to substantiate this, Srila Prabhupada quotes a verse from the Hari Bhakti Sudodaya. Akshno phalam tradrisha darshanam hi tanor phalam tradrisha gatra sangaha jiva phalam tradrisha kritanam hi sudrulabha bhagavata hi loke. Aksha means to see, the eyes. Aksha, the eyes. So it says, the purpose of the visual sense is fulfilled simply by seeing the Lord. Akshno phalam tradrisha darshanam hi. The purpose of the visual sense is fulfilled simply by seeing the Lord. Tano phalam tradrisha gatra sangaha. To touch your body, or the sense of touch, when the sense of touch comes in touch with the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is the fulfillment of all bodily touch. Then it says, Jiva phalam tradrisha kritanam hi. When the tongue is utilized in glorifying the glories of the Supreme Lord, then the purpose of the tongue is fulfilled. So in other words, the senses are meant for serving the Lord. The senses are actually meant to interact with the Lord. In the spiritual realm, we have spiritual senses because we have a spiritual body. So the spiritual senses are absorbed in the service of the Lord. And they have no other function except interacting with the Lord. But when the living entity finds himself or herself in the material world, the spiritual senses are covered by matter. They are covered by the material senses. And as such, the material senses inhibits, prevents the spiritual senses from interacting with the Lord. So the result of that is the living entity becomes engrossed. The living entity becomes absorbed in sense gratification. and he becomes disconnected from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this verse from the Hari Bhakti Sudodaya is revealing how the senses should function, how the senses should serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Priyashim Sarvanitranam. The Lord's form is the dearmost object of the eyes. The Lord's form is the dearmost object of the eyes. One should not look at anything else except the Lord. One should constantly drink the sweetness of the form of the Lord by looking at the Lord. And that is what happens in the spiritual world. That's what happens in Vrindavan Dham. That's what happens when the Lord appears in the material world, surrounded by his devotees. The devotees, they fix their gaze upon the form of the Lord because they constantly drink the sweetness of the form of the Lord. In a message or in a letter to Krishna, Rukmini Devi writes, Rupam Drisham Drishmatam Aklatam Labham Twai Achuta Vasita Chitam Apatram Me. Your qualities, which enter the ears of those who hear and immediately remove their bodily distress. Your beauty fulfills all the visual desires of those who see you. I have therefore fixed my shameless mind upon you, O Krishna. This was contained in a letter that Rukmini sent to Krishna through the Brahmana who went to Dwaraka because Rukmini's senior brother wanted to marry him off to Sishupal. So in this statement, Rukmini is highlighting the importance of hearing about the glories of the Lord and the importance of seeing the form of the Lord. That as soon as one hears the glories of the Lord, he becomes free from distress. And as soon as one sees the form of the Lord, one becomes fixed in that form. So, in this way, the senses of the living entity can be engaged in the service of the Lord. The Srimad Bhagavatam also mentions Praktya Krashtum Nayanam Abala Yatra Lagnam Nasekuhu. That once the eyes were fixed upon the transcendental form, the women of Vrindavan, the gopis, were unable to withdraw their vision from the form of the Lord. And once That form had entered into the ears of the sages in the form of the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sages became fixed in their hearts and would never depart from hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What to speak of acquiring fame, the great poets who describe the beauty of the Lord's form would have their words invested transcendentally for pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by seeing the form of the Lord on Arjuna's chariot, all the warriors on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attain liberation of gaining a spiritual body similar to the form of the Lord, just by gazing upon that beautiful form, Somya Vapu of the Lord. So, by the interaction of the senses with the form of the Lord, with the glories of the Lord, with the activities of the Lord, the living entity becomes fulfilled. The senses are pacified, and the living entity becomes fulfilled. So therefore, the object of fulfilling the senses of the living entity is the form of the Lord. As Shukadeva Goswami has mentioned in the verse. Rupa Goswami mentions also in the Padyavali, Namo Nalina Netraya Venu Vadaya Vinodine Radha Dara Sutapana Saline Vana Maline. Radharani is saying in the Padyavali, to Sri Krishna, whose eyes are as beautiful as the lotus flowers, whose delights in playing the flute, who drinks the nectar emanating from the lips of the gopis, and who is garlanded with forest flowers, I offer my humble obeisances at his lotus feet. So, Srimati Radharani, who is the chief of the gopis, he is glorifying Krishna's beauty. He says his eyes are as beautiful as the lotus flowers. Namo Nalina Netraya. Queen Kunti also made a similar prayer. Nama Pankaja Nabaya. Nama Pankaja Netraya. Nama Pankaja. So what Kunti is saying, my obeisances to the Lord's lotus navel, which is like that of a flower, lotus flower. My obeisances unto the eyes of the Lord, who are just like lotus petals. My obeisances unto the feet of the Supreme Lord, which are like lotus petals. So everything about Krishna is so beautiful, like the lotus flower. Therefore, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami says, Karma lagi Krishna bhaje, paya Krishna rasaha, Kama chadi dasa haite, haya abilasahe. When someone engages in the Lord's devotional service for the satisfaction of his senses and acquires a taste for serving Krishna, he gives up his material desires and willingly offers himself as the eternal servant of Krishna. So devotional service is actually an opportunity for us to link up with the form of the Lord. Anyone who gains the opportunity to engage in devotional service means that he is given the chance to engage his or her senses in the service of the Lord. And if it is done nicely, properly, he will develop some attachment, some taste for the form of the Lord. And as soon as one is able to develop some taste in the service of the Lord, naturally, material proclivities, material inclinations, material desires, they will all evaporate. And the devotee will begin to relish the activities of devotional service. So devotional service is an opportunity for the living entity to again connect with the form of the Lord. And by that connection, one can experience the joy of Krishna's form. Parikshit Maharaj was excited to hear the story of Prithu Maharaj. Shukadeva Goswami, in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, describes the visit of Lord Vishnu to the arena, the sacrificial arena of Prithu Maharaj. And when the Lord appeared at the sacrificial arena of Prithu Maharaj, his eyes were full of tears. His voice was faltering and choked up. He could neither see the Lord very distinctly nor address the Lord in a proper way. He simply embraced the Lord within his heart and remained standing in that way with folded hands. In other words, when Lord Vishnu appeared in the sacrificial arena of Prithu Maharaj was in such ecstasy. Tears were flowing from his eyes. His voice choked up. He was motionless. He could not move because he had embraced the Lord within his heart and was experiencing great joy seeing the form of the Lord. So with folded hands, Prithu Maharaj began to offer prayers to Lord Vishnu. Prithu Maharaj, he offered many prayers, but one particular prayer which is very significant for us is this. He said, Na kamaye natatar api aham kwachin, na yatra yushman charanambu jasaha. He said, my dear Lord, I therefore do not wish to have the benediction of merging into your existence, a benediction in which there is no existence of the nectarian beverage of your lotus feet. I want the benediction of at least 1 million years, for thus I may be able to hear about the glories of your lotus feet from the mouths of your pure devotees. So Prithu Maharaj is seeing the Lord. He has embraced the Lord within the core of his heart. He is in tears. He is in ecstasy, seeing the Lord in his sacrificial arena. And he is unable to speak due to ecstasy. But as soon as he is able to say something, his request is the Lord should give him a benediction of 1 million years so that he can hear and hear and hear, unlimited hearing, because that hearing is nectar. Hearing the glories of the Lord is like drinking a very sweet beverage through the ears. And that is what the ears are meant for. The ears are not meant for some mundane sound. The ears are meant for drinking the nectar that is emanating from the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the ears are so designed that they are never full. One can hear from morning to evening, but the ears are never full. So in this way, when the ears are connected to the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can drink that nectar again and again and again. Piyusha Karana. Piyusha Karana. Piyusha Karana means, Piyusha means a drink, a nectarian drink, and Karana means the ear. So the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are described as Piyusha Karanam. Vikriditam Tvam Piyusha Karanam. Your activities, your pastimes, O Lord Krishna, are like sweet beverages that when they enter into the ear of the devotee. So Prithu Maharaj is requesting the Lord. He's asking for a benediction that the Lord should give him 1 million years so that he can drink the nectar of the glories of the Lord from the 1 million years. So from this, we can see what it is to actually hear the glories of the Lord. It is not a hackneyed process. It is a very relishable process that the devotees who have become purified, the devotees who are inclined to hearing the glories of the Lord, they take great pleasure in hearing. And Parikshit Maharaj is the emblem of such hearing. Because Parikshit Maharaj was so absorbed in hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord, he forgot to eat. He forgot to sleep. He even forgot that he was going to die. He was just hearing and hearing and hearing until Taskar, the snake bird, appeared and bit him. So this hearing process of the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the engagement of the ears. Just as seeing the beautiful form of the Lord is the engagement of the eyes. So therefore, a devotee has to cultivate this ability, this tendency of hearing, seeing, serving, and so on. As Krishna instructed Uddhava, Krishna told Uddhava, Tasmat Uddhava na bhokshva vishayam asat indriyai adma grahana nirbantam pasya vikalpam brahman. Therefore, Uddhava, do not try to enjoy sense gratification with the material senses. See how illusion based on material dualities prevents one from realizing the self. So Krishna is telling Uddhava that in order to realize the self, in order to drink the sweetness of Krishna consciousness, to drink the sweetness of Krishna's form, to drink the sweetness of Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's glories, he says, don't get involved in sense gratification. In other words, sense gratification is actually the enemy of the living entity, in the sense that it covers the spiritual senses. It covers the living entity's real senses and prevents the living entity from actually enjoying. I remember Bhakti-tirtha Maharaj used to say that there is a lot of sense enjoyment in this Krishna conscious activity, but many people are missing out because they are attached to a lower level of sense gratification. Gurudev used to say that there is a higher level of sense gratification for the senses. But unless we give up the lower stages of this sense gratification, we give up the inferior sense gratification, we have no access to the higher form of sense gratification. So the living entity worships the senses instead of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada mentioned that point. He said, illusion by the glaring reflection of the external energy, the living entities worship the senses instead of engaging them properly in fulfilling the desires of the Supreme Lord. So this is our situation. Therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj says, Krishna bulise jiva anahi bahirmukha. Now, forgetting Krishna, the living entity has been attracted by the external feature of the material energy from time immemorial. Therefore, the illusory energy, Maya, gives him all kinds of miseries in this material world. So we are all trying to enjoy our senses. That is a material culture. Everyone wants to enjoy his senses. But actually, we are preventing ourselves from actual enjoyment. We are denying ourselves of actual enjoyment. We are depriving ourselves of real enjoyment. So long as we are still rubbing the material senses against the objects, we cannot experience the bliss of Krishna consciousness. So to move forward, to actually experience what is transcendence, to have a taste of the divine world, to have a taste of transcendence, one must minimize the involvement of the senses with their sense objects. Therefore, the whole process of Krishna consciousness is meant to rectify the conditional activities of the senses and to re-engage them in the direct service of the Lord. Ya idam manasa vacha chakshubhyam sravana dibir nashwaram griya manamcha vidi maya manomayam. My dear Uddhava, Krishna says, the material universe that you perceive through your mind, speech, eyes, ears, and other senses is an illusory creation that one imagines to be real due to the influence of Maya. In fact, you should know that all of the objects of the material senses are simply temporary. So Krishna is further advising Uddhava, instructing Uddhava, that my dear Uddhava, The material universe that you perceive through your mind, through your speech, through your eyes, through your ears, and other senses is an illusory creation. And one imagines to be real due to the influence of Maya. And that is a fact, because we are attracted, living entities attracted to the external potency of the Supreme Lord. He misses out in internalizing, in going within to experience a higher dimension of joy. We are attracted to the external world. We are attracted to the objects of the senses. We are attracted to the beauty, the dazzling beauty of the material world. And we don't even bother to find out what is within. So now Brahma does engage his senses in the recreation of the universe in order to give the living entity an opportunity to re-engage his senses in the service of the Lord. So Brahman's function is to facilitate the living entity. Brahman's duty is to give us an opportunity by creating material bodies and by creating the material universe. When the souls, at the time of destruction, annihilation, at the time of annihilation, the souls are in a subtle form in the belly. They are withdrawn into the belly of Mahavishnu, and their material bodies are destroyed. And so they remain dormant. They remain asleep in the belly of Mahavishnu until the next creation. So in the next creation, Brahma creates the planets, creates the material elements, creates the material body, and places the living entities in different locations so that, again, they can engage in the transcendental service of the Lord. And by so doing, the living entity can become freed from this material existence. Therefore, the material universe is created to give the conditioned soul a chance to act in a proper manner, to again engage in Krishna's service and get the opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, Brahmaji, Naradaji, Vyasaji, and many, many other acharyas and devotees of their caliber, they are all busy in trying to educate the conditioned living entities in this world. So it is said, Jnana Vijnana Samyuta Admabhuta Saririnam Admanu Bhava Tushtadma Nantarayai Vihanyase. Being fully endowed with conclusive knowledge of the Vedas and having realized the ultimate purpose of such knowledge in practice, you will be able to perceive your pure self, and thus your mind will be satisfied. At that time, you will become dear to all living entities. So, because we are absorbed in the sense gratification, and sense gratification means competition. We want to enjoy the senses more than anybody else. We want to lead in a sense gratification. And anybody who is competing with us becomes an enemy. That is how this material world is operating on competition. Who enjoys the senses better? Who achieves a better position? And so, because of this, we don't pursue spiritual knowledge. Because of this, we become enemies to each other. Because of this, we are distracted and disconnected from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But as soon as we engage in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, we engage in self-realization, we get to understand ourselves, then all of these tendencies will leave us alone. And then the Lord says, you become dear to all living entities. You become dear to all beings, because that competitive spirit, that antagonistic spirit is no more there. So because our senses are not engaged in pleasing Krishna, we are worshiping the senses. We are trying to become the enjoyers of our senses. And because other living entities are competing with us, they naturally becomes our enemy. So, but as soon as our senses are purified, as soon as our senses are engaged in Krishna's service, then we become free from all these inclinations, and we become very dear to other living entities. Therefore, Krishna says, Tasmat yuktendriya gramo yukta chitta idam jagat. That, my dear Uddhava, bring all your senses under control of the mind and see the entire world as situated within the self, who is expanded everywhere. You should also see this individual self within me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, Krishna is telling Uddhava that everything is originating from him. Everything is emanating from him. But first of all, one has to understand that everything is coming from the soul, and one has to understand that the soul is coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there is a link between all that we see out there, and there is a link between the soul and Krishna. So therefore, Krishna is telling Uddhava that you should bring your senses under control, subdue your mind, and see the entire world as situated within the self. And then you should also see the individual self situated within the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this way, the living entity can be reinstated in his original position as described by Srila Prabhupada in his purports, that the purpose of the creation is to re-engage the living entity in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada also mentions that the impersonalists, they make the conditioned soul senseless, and also the Lord senseless. And he said this is an improper treatment of the conditioned souls. What is the use of the senses if they are not utilized in the service of the Lord? The impersonalists, they always say that because the Lord is described as Nirguna, Harihi Nirguna Shakshat, Purusha Prakrite Paraha. Harihi Nirguna Shakshat means the Lord has no material senses. Nirguna Shakshat, he has no material senses. Nirguna, he has no material senses. But that does not mean that the Lord has no spiritual senses. And so the impersonalists, they pick this quotation that the Lord has no senses. But it's saying the Lord has no material senses. It does not say the Lord does not have spiritual senses. It says the Lord has no material senses. That means the Lord has spiritual senses. Because the Lord is beyond the material creation. Purusha Prakrite Paraha. He's beyond the material creation. And therefore, he doesn't have material senses. But he does have spiritual senses. So the impersonalists, they don't understand this. But the devotees, they understand. Therefore, Rupa Goswami is saying, my dear friends, unless I serve the transcendental form qualities and pastimes of Sri Krishna, all my days and all my senses will become entirely useless. So unless our senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, the senses are useless, our days are useless. In fact, the living entity has been serving the senses from time immemorial. Rupa Goswami says, Kama dinam kati na katida palita dunideshaha. That, oh my Lord, there is no limit to the unwanted orders of lusty desires. Although I have rendered these desires so much service, they have not shown any mercy to me. I have not been ashamed to serve them, nor have I even the desire to give them up. O my Lord, please brighten my intelligence so that I can awaken to your orders. Give me transcendental intelligence so that I can refuse to obey these desires. I want to surrender unto you. I want to become your servant. But these lusty desires will not allow me to do as I want. So, my dear Lord, give me transcendental intelligence. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Dadami buddhi yogam tam, te shamsatatam yuktanam, Dadami buddhi yogam tam. That those who are endeavoring constantly in devotional service, I give them transcendental intelligence. I give them transcendental understanding by which they can come to me. So, the devotee is always praying to the Lord to give him that transcendental intelligence so that he can transcend the senses and return to the spiritual sky. Srila Prabhupada writes, the disease condition of the senses may be treated by curing the defect, but not by uprooting the senses altogether. When there is some disease in the eyes may be cured to see properly. Plucking out the eyes is no treatment. Similarly, the whole material disease is based on the process of sense gratification. And liberation from the disease condition is the re-engagement of the senses to see the beauty of the Lord, hear his glories, and act on his account. Thus, Brahmaji created the universe again solely for this purpose. Vilokya Krishna Vraja Vama Netraha Sarvendriyanam Nayanam Tvam Eva Anyatat Venu Nidambagim Aichampunastat Sarvatmanam Eva. When the beautiful-eyed girls of Vraja saw Lord Krishna, they wished all their senses had become eyes. And when they heard the waves of the music from Krishna's flute, they wished that all their senses had become ears. In other words, just like Prithu Maharaj was seeking a benediction from the Lord to have 1,000,000 ears, the Brijabasis, the Gopis, they are also desiring the same thing. When they see the Lord, they want their whole body to be full of eyes so they can see the Lord unlimitedly. And when they hear the glories of Krishna, they have a desire that their whole body should be full of ears so they can hear these glories again and again and again in a multiple forms. So this is the sign that the devotees are relishing Krishna's sweetness. In fact, it is said, when the gopis, after a long separation from Krishna, when Krishna left Vrindavan at the age of 11 or so, they never saw him again until Kurukshetra. So when the gopis saw Krishna at Kurukshetra, due to the long separation, they immediately embraced Krishna within the core of their hearts. And they began to offer prayers to Krishna. the gopi said, "Dear Krishna, for a long, long time, you have deprived us of your beautiful form. Now, we have come in touch with this form again. Please do not deprive us again of this vision." And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami concludes by saying, "Krishna Valokana Vina, Netra Fala Nahi Ana. Ye Jana Krishna Deke Se Bhajavan." There is no consummation or no engagement of the eyes other than the sight of Krishna. Whoever sees him is the most fortunate soul. Ye Jana Krishna Deke Se Bhajavan. Bhajavan means a very fortunate soul. Anyone who is able to cast his glance at the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such a soul is the most fortunate personality. So, in conclusion, the form of the Lord actually fulfills the desires of the living entity. If we are able to see the form of the Lord, we are able to capture the form of the Lord, all our desires, visual desires, will be satisfied. When we are able to hear the glories of the Lord, all our hearing desires will be satisfied. So by seeing and by hearing is glorious. Of course, one may say that we can hardly see the Lord in this age of Kali, but we can hear about the Lord. So seeing is not very important, Srila Prabhupada often says. Seeing is not very important, but hearing is important. So if we intensify our hearing the holy name, hearing the pastimes, hearing the glories of the Lord, if we intensify our hearing, we can also see the Lord. The Lord will manifest himself within the core of the heart. And a devotee can actually see Krishna. Krishna is already there in our hearts. It's just a matter of clearing our vision. It's just a matter of making ourselves available. And so this process of Krishna consciousness is actually meant to give us this opportunity to again connect with Krishna and be happy because our senses will be completely satisfied. Hare Krishna. So we end here. If there are any comments or questions, you're welcome.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, as always, for the wonderful Krishna Katha. Well, obviously, we wouldn't have enough time because Prabhuji, your Katha, Krishna Katha is so beautiful and it excites unlimited. I have like maybe 15 questions
Hare Krishna.
from from the delivery today. And I'll say if please devotees, if anyone has questions, comments, realizations, please you may do so. Because I'm actually confused. I do not know which one to ask. Because I think they are all important, but I would like to try to see which is more pertinent. But I'll give devotees the opportunity to go ahead and ask their questions if they have any. Well, maybe I will have to
open the door.
Open the door, yes. I have to create some excitement. Probably you were saying, well, again, thank you for the beautiful class, but you were saying is that Srila Prabhupada said, of course, we all have heard several times that hearing is the more important thing. But we read a couple of verses before this verse, where the Lord himself was telling Lord Brahma that the ultimate of self-realization is to see me in person. And
right.
you have seen me. And so we always say that seeing is not important. Seeing is not important, but it is the ultimate.
Yeah.
So how then do we encourage devotees to render service just like Lord Brahma did to attract the Supreme Lord in such a way that the Supreme Lord at some point will reveal himself and shake hands with us?
That's
If
right.
all the emphasis is on hearing, 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 and there is no eagerness to doing something to possibly behold the beautiful form of the Lord, which the Lord himself is saying is the ultimate, then where do we go?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Actually, if you analyze the situation, you will see that in the beginning, Brahma did not see the Lord. When Brahma was created, when Brahma found himself on top of the lotus flower, he was enveloped in complete darkness. He did not even know his source. He was trying to find his source. And so he ran up and down the lotus stem without knowing, without finding his source. And he was so confused that he didn't know what to do. But somehow, due to his developed intelligence, when he heard the word tapa, he understood that if I want to see the Lord, if I want to know my bearings, I must perform some tapasya. So immediately he engaged in tapasya. And the scripture tells us for 1,000 celestial years, Lord Brahma engaged in such tapasya, in devotional tapasya, because the tapasya was actually meant to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahma had an intuition that if I want to know my origin, if I want to see my source, I must please that personality. And so his tapasya was not to gain anything else. It was meant to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so when Krishna became pleased with Brahma's tapasya, then the Lord presented himself before Brahma. And then he imparted the scriptural knowledge to him, Brahma Hridaya Dikavaye. He gave him the Chatusloke, and he shook hands with Brahma, and he encouraged Brahma like that. So we also need the process of purification. So we can say the Brahma went through a period of purification. In fact, Srila Prabhupada mentions that taking birth in this material world means contamination. Even Brahma, he took birth from the lotus flower. We came directly from the navel of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. So the lotus is an extension of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and Brahma took birth on top of that lotus. So we can say Brahma is also an extension of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. Yet, because he had accepted a material body, he was considered contaminated. And therefore, he had to perform some austerity to purify the senses to become eligible before the Lord presented himself to Brahma. So, yes, seeing the Lord is the ultimate. That is a fact. But in our conditioned state, can we actually see the Lord? No. Even when we see the form of the Lord, we have so many things in our mind. Krishna is so kind to us that Krishna appears in his Ashtavigraha form, the deity form. He stands before us. But are we actually seeing Krishna in the deity, or we are seeing some metal or some stone, marble, or some wood in form of Lord Jagannath? are we actually seeing the son of Nanda Maharaj? When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will stand before Lord Jagannath, he will say, I'm directly seeing the son of Nanda Maharaj. So when we see the deities, do we actually have the feeling that this is Nanda Maharaj's son standing here with Vrishabhanu's daughter, Radharani? They're standing here to give us benediction, to give us their audience, to give us their darshan. Do we feel like that? So we need purification, and that purification comes by hearing. So from our level, in order to climb up to the level of seeing, we have to go through a process of purification, and that purification comes by hearing. So that's the first thing. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. So first we have to hear, and by that hearing, we become purified, and when we are purified, then we can see the Lord. So the ultimate is to see, but in our conditioned state, we do not have the qualification to see, but we have the qualification to hear. So let's begin with the first step of God realization, of self-realization by hearing. And as we hear more and more and more, our hearts become purified, our minds become purified, our vision becomes purified. And then one day, it happens, the Lord is standing before us, and the ultimate goal becomes achievable. So it's possible, but we have to, first of all, purify our existence, then we can see the Lord.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much. So if I understood you quite clearly, if seeing is the ultimate, then the hearing is the means.
Yes, you're
Okay.
right. Yeah.
So the hearing is the means. But
Yeah.
I guess that it will be, my little mind tells me that it will be helpful to remind the devotees that hearing is the process, is the means, and seeing is the ultimate. So
Yes.
if one really wants to see, then we should pay attention to hearing.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That's right.
Thank you so much. But I have another question. We'll go to Madhavan Prabhu first. Madhavan Prabhu, please you may unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
All
Krishna,
glory
Madhavan
for
Prabhu. Hare
all
Krishna.
glory for the
Yeah, all glories to
I
Guru
see you.
Deva Prabhupada. All glories to all the wonderful Vaishnavas.
Yes, Prabhu. So pleased to see you again today and
Happy
receiving
to
your
see you
lecture.
too.
I'm so happy. I'm
Happy
very
to see you
agitated.
too. Yeah.
So I want us to bring our mind to this particular point when the said Lord Brahma began to recreate the universe full entity as it was previously. So it brings my mind to the fact that everything appears to be like a repeated cycle.
Exactly.
And then when we say we are creating something, then the thing must have been created previously also. Even all these scientific innovations that we are doing. Then another thing also that material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world.
Yes.
So it's like idea is coming from the spiritual, then we try to create it here. I don't know if it's clear or.
Yes. You see, everything we are doing here is just a reflection. One Acharya gave an example of the child who is disturbing the mother. The mother is cooking in the kitchen, and the girl child is worrying the mother, mother, I also want to cook. I also want to do something. And so the mother, she go get some milk, empty milk tins, create some corner, some kitchen in some corner, and give to a little girl to get her busy. So she also become busy with her milk tins, also trying to cook something, some sand. And this way he doesn't really interfere with the mother's cooking. So the material creation is like that. It's like one little corner in the spiritual sky that some living entities want to imitate the activities of Krishna. And Krishna said, all right, go to this corner, manipulate the material energy, material elements, the way you want it to your satisfaction. So with the experience of trying the experience of enjoyment in the spiritual realm, in our natural identity as spiritual beings, we have transported that desire into the material corner, material world, and we are trying to, enjoy the way we used to enjoy in the spiritual world. So, but it's not the same. So whatever we are doing here in the material world is just an imitation. We're imitating some things that happen in the spiritual realm. Of course, sometimes we concoct. We don't just imitate, we also concoct based on our imagination of how we want to enjoy. So, but the principle of enjoyment is based on spiritual activities for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. The principle of material enjoyment is also based on activity, but not based on pleasing the Supreme Lord. It is based on pleasing our senses. So they are all activities, but one activity is spiritual because it's meant for Krishna's pleasure. The other activity is material because it's meant for the senses of the living entity. So, but activity is there. Activity is there in the spiritual world, activity is there in the material world. But one activity is for Krishna's pleasure, and one activity is for the senses. And so that's how we are operating in the material world. Everything is a recycle. Whatever we are seeing has been recycled. Civilizations rise and fall. This is not the first time we are having this scientific advancement. It has happened before. It has gone to such a height and it collapsed. And again, it is coming up. So it's a cycle. It goes on again and again and again. Empires reign, empires collapse. Scientists rise, scientists fall. Theories come, theories go. It's a cycle because Brahmaji is the greatest scientist. He is recreating the world as it was before. So that means everything is just a cycle. I agree with you.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So clear. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna. I think it's in Ecclesiastes in the Bible where it says, anytime anyone tells you, hey, look up there, something new, tell that individual is a fool.
Yeah.
There is nothing new under the sun.
That's right.
Yeah, Ecclesiastes says that beautifully.
Yeah.
But there had been few times that we had kind of unresolved debate, so to speak, on this platform about devotees going to the temple room to pay darshan to the deities. Do devotees go to the temple room to see the deities, or they go to the temple room for the deities to see them? And that the deities are there, but do you actually see them as Krishna? So there is no Krishna there. Now, the question I'm asking, which is a continuation, is because of how you were answering a question, you talked about, do we actually see Krishna in the deities? If I do not if I do not recognize the president when the president passes right in front of me or even shakes hands with me, I do not think that will mean that the president was not there or the president did not shake hands with me. It's just that I did not recognize.
Yeah.
And so if I went to the temple room and I saw the deity form of the Lord, to me, the Lord is there. But I did not recognize. It's just like I'm seeing a photo at your background. It's like Lord Chaitanya in the Gandhicha temple.
Yes, you're right.
If Lord Chaitanya did not see Krishna right there in that temple room, I do not think he will be getting himself busy scrubbing the entire temple room like that. So my question to you is, are the deities Krishna in the form for the conditioned souls who do not have divine eyes to see his divine form, to be able to see this revealed form the same as Krishna? It only requires one to see him as such, or he is not, the deity is not Krishna.
Why not? The deity is Krishna. The deity is Krishna. When Madhavendra Puri visited Vrindavan and performed his Govardhan Parikrama and went to Govinda Kund to take a bath and to relax, he dozed off. Now, in fact, he didn't doze off first. He needed some food, but he was not ready to beg. And so as he was chanting his japa under a banyan tree next to the Govinda Kund, a very beautiful boy appeared with a pot of milk and offered it to Madhavendra Puri and said, Sadhu, in this our land, nobody fasts. So we have observed that you are fasting. And so the villagers have sent me to bring you this milk. Please drink this milk and keep the pot down. I'll come back for it. And the boy left. Madhavendra Puri waited. He drank the milk. He washed the pot. He put it down. He waited and waited. The boy never came back. And so he continued to chant his rounds all day and all night. But somewhere along the line, getting to the end of the night, Madhavendra Puri dozed off. And in that doze, he saw the same beautiful boy who had brought him the pot of milk. The boy came and held his hand and took him into some bushes and said, I am here. I'm covered by rubbish. Please call the villagers. Let them bring choppers, cutlasses, clear the bushes, and bring me out. Install me on Govardhan Hill and initiate a proper worship for me. Then the dream ended, and Madhavendra Puri opened his eyes, and it was daybreak. So he was thinking, is it a dream or a revelation? But it was not a dream, because he saw the same boy who had brought him the pot of milk in that dream, and that boy had held his hand, and he was feeling ecstasy just by the touch of the boy. So he understood this is Krishna. So he got up, called some villagers together. They brought choppers, and they began to clear the bushes in the direction that the boy had dragged him. And lo and behold, they found the Gopal deity, Srinathji, covered by bushes. And they cleared the bushes and brought out Gopal. And then they bathed him, they washed him, they installed him on a big stone on Govardhan Hill. And Madhavendra Puri initiated some local people as Brahmanas to take care of that deity. And that deity today is being worshipped in Naradwar in Rajasthan. So one may say that this is a deity, but actually the deity is alive. It just depends on our level of realization. One who is very advanced, he can communicate with the deity. He can see the deities alive. But those of us who are just beginning, we may not be able to come to that platform. We may just see the deity as a statue. But the deity is alive. The deity is actually an incarnation of Krishna. He said that the deity is the mercy incarnation of the Lord, so that he can receive service from the neophyte devotees. Because the neophyte devotees must see something. He must engage in activities to please the deity. So therefore, the Lord incarnates as a deity to offer the neophyte devotee a chance to render service unto him. But that does not mean that as one progresses, one advances, he neglects the deity. No. Rupa Goswami says deity worship is necessary for the neophyte, is necessary for the Madhyama Adhikari, is necessary for the Uttama Adhikari, because Krishna is present. For the neophyte, he only sees the deity and he tries to worship the form without realization. With the Madhyama, he's beginning to perceive the presence of the Lord in the deity. And with the Uttama, he actually sees that the deity is not different from Nanda Maharaj's son, Krishna. So the deity is important because it gives us the clue of a form. The Lord has a form, and the Lord can be served, and we can relate to that form. That is what the deity instills in us by seeing the deity. Even if we don't realize that the Krishna is present in the deity, but at least we recognize that this is a form of the Lord, and we need to render some service in the form of worship, in the form of care, in the form of dressing, and by so doing, we make some advancement. So the deity is not different from Krishna, but according to our level of realization, we see differently.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Babaji, for the answer. I know there are two hands up, but I have a follow-up question to the answer you gave. It still surrounds deities.
Yeah.
And it's very wonderful and beautiful at the same time, describing the pastimes of Srimad Devendra Puri and the Lord. So in his dream, the Lord revealed to him, Madhavendra Puri, that he is stuck somewhere. So you should go and discover him and then worship him, which he said is being worshipped till today.
Yeah, in Naradwar.
Now,
Yeah.
I know ISKCON is an organization, so we have to do things in a very organized way. That's why it's called organization.
That's right.
And therefore, there is a process of installing deity.
Yeah.
Which I agree. But Srila Prabhupada used to say that the spiritual master invites the Supreme Lord and begs the Supreme Lord to live in the deity of himself. And then Srila Prabhupada oftentimes will write to his disciples that I have invited the Lord. He is now here with you. I'm leaving you. Take good care of the Lord. So I understand there is Radha Krishna deity sent to Ghana. I don't know whether it's Accra, Kumasi, or wherever. Okay, Kumasi, yes. And the deities are still in the box. They've not been opened to be worshipped because the right procedure has not been able to be performed.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, if Krishna is only Krishna in his deity form only when he's been installed, then what do we, grihastas, not living in a temple, living in our various homes, are we actually eating prashadam? Because when we cook, we offer our food to the deities we have in our homes. And if those deities are not Krishna, they are not installed, and therefore they are not Krishna, then what are we eating? How are we going to advance when we keep eating boga? So my question is it better for the deities to be taken out of the box and render some recognition that they are there, maybe not full worship, or they should still be in the box for as long as the qualified people to invite the Supreme Lord in the formal installation process?
Well, the Srila Prabhupada mentions a number of places. For instance, when they were installing the deities in Vrindavan, Krishna Balaram, Radha Shama Sundara, and Sisi Gaurnitai, Srila Prabhupada, he invited the Brijavasi Goswamis to do the installation. And then he instructed the disciples, the devotees, to just do intense kirtan. And so the Goswamis of Vrindavan, the priests from Vrindavan, they did all the ceremony, they did the jagya, they did the pratishta and everything. And the devotees, they just concentrated on doing kirtan. But at the end of the day, Prabhupada told the devotees that the real installation was by the chanting of the devotees. Instead, your Hare Krishna mantra, your intense kirtan is the actual installation. What the Goswamis did is just ceremonial. And if we don't do that, they will not accept us. So it's a strategy to let the people of Vrindavan, recognize that the deities were installed by their own people. So it's bona fide. But instead, the real installation is the intense kirtan that went on during the ceremony. In other words, Prabhupada is saying, just by chanting the holy name very intensely, the deities are installed. So that lent credence to the fact that once you have deities in your house and you're chanting Hare Krishna, is considered installed. You don't really need to go through the whole pratishta ceremony to have the deities installed. Once you're chanting the Krishna's Maha Mantra, Krishna has already accepted to live in your house. And so the food you're offering is accepted by Krishna. Now for the temple deities, because it's for the public to come and worship, they are called the presiding deities. So because they're the presiding deities, there is, in fact, Krishna himself, he talks about it in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that his form as a deity, there's a process you have to do to actually, before you start worshiping in the temple. So the installation ceremony is necessary because it's a public place, and many people are going to come there with their requests and different situations. So therefore, certain ceremonies must be done to inform the public that the deity has come. So that's why Prabhupada said the spiritual master must request the deity to come, must request Krishna to enter the deity. That is the job of the spiritual master. So, because he is the presiding deity, he is going to become the lord of that property. He is going to become the center of attraction for everyone. So the proper procedure for inviting the Lord must be done before the worship begins. Of course, even in mid-year, we did not install the deities, but we started worshiping them. The deities came 96. We wanted to have them during Janmashtami, but they came after Janmashtami. But as soon as they came, we contacted Guru Maharaj and said, put them on the altar and start worshiping. So from 96, we started worshiping them until 98. It was 98 when Guru Maharaj did the official installation.
Installation, yes.
Yes, and he brought all the devotees from all around West Africa to Media to do that installation. But he told us, just do kirtan and do your worship, Krishna will accept your services. So the official installation is necessary for the presiding deities. But for individuals to have deities in their homes, they don't require that ceremony. They just require to chant Hare Krishna and Krishna becomes available. So both is applicable.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji, as always. Dr. Hassan, please you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Bhakta Hassan, happy to see you.
All glory to Gurudev, all glory to Prabhupada, and all glory to the
Jai.
Assembly. Thank you for the beautiful class.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I have this doubt and this question, and I want to bring it here if you can help me.
Okay.
It's about surrounding to Krishna and at the same time interfering in Krishna's affairs. I was listening to this class. It was something came up, so I didn't listen to it completely, and it goes like Mother Rukmini was feeding Krishna, and all of a sudden he woke up and he said that my devotee needs me, and Krishna sat down again and he said that he's already defending himself. Like a dog was attacking one devotee. So what came to my mind is that, for instance, if a dog is coming to attack me, what I will do is I will call Krishna's name, but still I have to look for a wood or something to defend myself.
Yes.
So I was wondering, what did this devotee do which make Krishna sit down again that the devotee is like defending himself or interfering in his affairs? And for instance, we do pray to Krishna for protection and we sing Narasimha Dev mantras and everything.
Yeah.
But still, we still use kavachas and threads and oil and all those things. So that means that if you do that, you are interfering in
in Krishna's affairs for protection, or if you say that you are interfering in Krishna's affairs, if you surrender to him, what does that mean? Can you explain it more further to me, please? Hare Krishna, this is my
Hare
question.
Krishna, thank you for your question. I think if I got you clearly, can a devotee defend himself if he is in such a situation? Is it not interfering with Krishna's protection? And then the
Yes.
issue of
Something like that.
Krishna getting up to protect a devotee, then he went back to sit. I think we've heard those stories again and again. Even in the case of Draupadi, when Draupadi was being deroped in the assembly of the Kurus, Draupadi was hoping that his 5 powerful husbands would save her. But when she realized that they could not, then she decided that she would defend herself. So she was trying to struggle with the powerful Dushashan and others who were trying to remove the sari from her body. But she realized that as a feeble woman, she could not fight these powerful warriors. So she decided to depend on Krishna. But she raised one hand to call out Krishna, and she was still using the other hand to hold the sari. And because she was doing like that, it means she was not completely dependent on Krishna. She was still depending one way, halfway on Krishna, halfway on her own strength. And because of that, Krishna did not respond. But when she finally realized that she could not help herself, and she raised both hands, and she cried out, "Hey Govinda, hey Krishna," and immediately Krishna became available. Krishna incarnated as a sari, unlimited sari, that Dusasan and the rest, they could not finish removing from her body. So it is true that if a devotee completely surrenders to Krishna, Krishna comes to his aid. That is a fact. But if a devotee still depends on his own strength, then Krishna does not respond immediately or quickly. He waits for the devotee to completely surrender. But that does not also mean to say, if we are in danger, we don't do something. Say, as you said, if a wild dog should attack you, and you can just say, okay, I don't need to do anything. Let me cry out to Krishna. And if you can pick up a stick and not even hit the dog, but just show to the dog. Dogs don't like sticks. If you just pick up a stick and show to the dog that you hit her or him, it will run away. So sometimes the intelligence that Krishna has given us should be used in the Lord's service, should be used. Other than that, why does the Lord give us that intelligence? So we should pray to Krishna, but we should also do the most practical thing. It doesn't mean that because we are praying to Krishna, we don't do anything practical. For instance, if you're hungry and you are praying to Krishna to bring you some food or some donation, and you sit in your room, you may not get that food. But if you make an effort to go out, probably Krishna can bring somebody to meet you and do something for you. So it is said that the mercy is always there, but there should also be some effort. Both are necessary. There should be some effort followed by the mercy. So a devotee, you have to make an effort. Then Krishna will meet up with his mercy. But if we just fold our hands and don't do anything, and we expect Krishna to do everything, then that is not good. We should make an effort and still depend on Krishna. And Krishna will always come through to help us. So both is required. You're not interfering. You are actually utilizing the God-given intelligence that Krishna has given you by making an effort, at the same time still depending on Krishna's mercy. Because if Krishna does not give you intelligence, Krishna does not guide you, how can you act? So even to pick up a stick to frighten the dog is still Krishna's arrangement. Krishna gives the intelligence as a super soul. Pick up a stick, do something. So therefore, we have to do something. We have to act. But at the same time, we have to depend on Krishna. So the mercy is there and the effort is there. In fact, the Damodara Lila, where Yashoda was trying to bind Krishna, and it was always short by 2 inches. So it is said that 2 inches represent effort and mercy. If Krishna did not give mercy to Yashoda, he could not bind Krishna. But Yashoda also needed to make an effort to bind Krishna. Then Krishna allowed himself to be bound. So both effort and mercy are necessary. Is that okay?
Oh, yes, it's very, very okay.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you so much. Hare
Hare
Krishna. Hare
Thank you. Madhavan Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
It's getting to 2 hours, so I don't know.
Yes, maybe.
I won't waste time. I won't
Okay.
waste time. Prabhuji, I'm so pleased with the explanation that you give as regards personal deity and temple.
Yeah,
Deity.
yes.
I'm really pleased. Just my own little personal experience about my own personal deity. There was a situation, I was in a very, very tight situation, maybe about 15 years ago or so. Very, very tight situation. That I had a case in the court. So the case lasted for about 1 year, 3 months. So at the end, the final day, they will give judgment. All I could just tell my deity is that, look, you have to follow me to court today. That was all I could say. You just have to follow me. So, and immediately I got to the court, I just parked. The first thing I was hearing easing. Somebody was easing. So, and I looked back. It was the judge that was supposed to judge that matter that day. He was calling me. So I quickly went to his office and he told me that, didn't I know that I was supposed to have seen him before today, this and that. Then, I started defending myself. Okay, I came, I didn't do this and that, even though I never made the effort. So he said I should go and sit down in the court. But Krishna just turned the case upside down to my own favor. And that's what happened with my deity. So I think faith is very, very important, in this connection.
Yes, agreed. The stronger our faith in Krishna, in the deity, the more he manifests his potency. And it's a fact. I was telling the story of Madhavendra Puri. When Madhavendra Puri installed Gopal on top of Govardhan Hill and initiated Brahmins to take care, one night again, Madhavendra Puri had a dream. And the dream was that the deity says, I'm feeling very hot. He must go and find some sandalwood paste and bring it for him. So immediately Madhavendra Puri embarked on a journey to Orissa, where he could get some sandalwood. And then he passed through Remuna. Remuna is where the popular deity of Gopinath, Chora Gopinath deity is. So just to glorify his devotee, the deity told Madhavendra Puri to go and look for sandalwood paste. And so when Madhavendra Puri arrived at Remuna Gopinath temple, it was in the evening. And the pujaris they had offered sweet rice to the deity, 9 pots of sweet rice to the deity. When the pujari went back to pick the sweet rice, 1 pot was missing. He searched everywhere on the altar. They could not find the 1 pot. So he took off the 8 pots and then closed the altar and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, the deity woke up the pujari. He said, get up, get up. Go and pick the other pot of sweet rice. I have put it here. Go this way, you'll find it. And go to the marketplace. There's one of my dearest devotee who is sitting there chanting. He has not eaten the whole day. Go give him that pot of sweet rice. So the pujari had to quickly get up, take a shower, quick shower, dress up, enter the altar, and he saw the pot of sweet rice. He picked it up. The very place he searched, he couldn't find, the pot of sweet rice was there. He picked it up and went into the marketplace shouting, who is that fortunate soul who has earned the mercy of Gopinath? Please come forward and take this sweet rice. Nobody was answering, but as he walked forward, he saw Madhavendra Puri sitting there chanting. So he gave the pot of sweet rice to Madhavendra Puri. So what I'm just trying to say is that reciprocation, there is reciprocation between the devotee and the deity. Once you are worshiping the deity nicely at home, Krishna is receiving your worship. Krishna is receiving your love. Krishna is receiving your feelings, your affection, and he will reciprocate for sure. Bhavagrahi is Krishna. He's always interested in the affection of his devotee. So therefore, to that degree, now we are having faith in Krishna. To that degree, now we are offering our love to Krishna. Krishna will also reciprocate with the devotee. So I'm not surprised that Krishna influenced the judge. He is the super soul. Sarvasya chaham hride sanivishto matasmriti gyanama bohanam cha. Krishna is the super soul seated in the heart of every living entity. And from him, knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness come. So therefore, Krishna can always change the mindset of any living entity because he's there. So therefore, the judge, under the influence of Krishna, changed the judgment in your favor. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for speaking. Of course, it's 2 hours.
Yeah.
So we may have to let it go. But I really appreciate the way you answered to Dr. Hassan's question, because there have been many, many times, many devotees have concluded that Draupadi did not surrender to Krishna initially. That is why she was almost disrobed naked. But Krishna also comes through sometimes as intelligence, most times actually.
Yeah.
Because he is not here physically with us, so he will give us the intelligence. And if someone is being attacked and thinks that he is a surrendered soul to Krishna and so will do nothing. Like if you're driving, how do you say Krishna is controlling the steering wheel? So you're not going to be attentive. So thank you for the way you answered. And dear devotees, well, Prabhuji, if you have any concluding words to make, you may do that, and then we'll have to request the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We are happy to be here to see all of you participating in this process of hearing. So we should continue to hear and hear and hear until we see the Lord.
Hare Krishna. Yes, I love to hear that until we see the Lord, because we want to see the Lord.
We want to see the Lord.
Yes. So, dear devotees, please We humbly requesting you all to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, our mentor, our guru, His Grace Srivas Vanacari. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Krishna Krishna,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hey, Govinda Prabhu, you didn't ask any question.
Vaishnava Namo.
Sri Govinda Prabhu, you didn't ask any question today.
Yes.
Yeah, I have some questions, but I think what you have given is enough. It's
All right,
enough. Thank you very, very much.
And Varahaji also, I see his presence. Obeisance.